Craigslist, an online marketplace where you can find almost anything: furniture, cars, jobs, roommates, and sometimes something much darker. Every day, millions of people scroll through listings, hoping to make a deal, find a bargain, or meet someone new. Feels harmless, convenient, ordinary. But behind some of those innocent ads are stories that are anything but. This video isn't about the typical Craigslist experience. It's about the rare and terrifying moments when a simple transaction turns into a nightmare. Moments when things go so wrong, they leave scars that never truly heal. A roommate who vanished without a trace. A free couch with a disturbing past. A job listing that led straight into a trap. These aren't urban legends or fiction. These are true stories, based on real events shared by real people. We've changed some names for privacy, but the core of each story remains untouched. The fear, the confusion, the danger. So if you're watching this alone, maybe leave a light on. And think twice the next time someone online offers something that feels just a little too good to be true. These are 3 creepy true Craigslist horror stories. Stories that prove the scariest things aren't found in haunted houses, but in everyday places. Hidden behind friendly words and tempting offers. Viewer discretion is advised. Now, let's begin with the first story. When you're in college, money is tight. You take shortcuts. You settle. And sometimes you make choices that you wish you never did. This story comes from Jenna, a quiet, responsible student in her second year of university. She'd been living in the dorms, but after her scholarship funds got cut, she had to find something cheaper, fast. Craigslist seemed like the best option. After all, hundreds of listings were posted every day. That's when she found it. A room for rent, just 15 minutes from campus. The ad was simple: quiet, clean, respectful roommate wanted. For $100 per month. Utilities included. Attached was a photo of a basic but tidy room. Nothing fancy, but it looked livable. She messaged the poster, a guy named Lucas. His reply came fast. Polite, friendly, even kind of awkward in a charming way. They talked over the phone that night. He explained that he was a night shift worker at a warehouse, barely home during the day. That sounded perfect for Jenna. Peace and quiet while she studied. She visited the next morning. The house was older, but it looked okay from the outside. Inside, things were clean, almost too clean. It had that smell of strong disinfectant, like someone had just scrubbed every inch. Lucas was there, and he seemed shy in person. Thin, soft-spoken, always avoiding eye contact. But he answered all her questions, gave her a tour, and even offered to lower the rent to $350 if she moved in that week. Jenna agreed. The first few days went smoothly. She unpacked, got back into her school routine, and barely saw Lucas. He'd disappear before she woke up and only return late at night. But soon, small things began to feel off. It started with the fridge. On her second night, she noticed a small lock had been added to it, a chain with a padlock. She asked Lucas why, and he mumbled something about a past roommate who used to steal food. Weird, but she let it go. Then came the smell, a heavy, metallic odor that seemed to come from the vents. It wasn't constant, but when it hit, it clung to the air. Jenna tried air fresheners, scented candles, even kept her windows open. Still, it came back, usually at night. Then there was Lucas. She started realizing he never ate. Not once did she see him cook, snack, or bring groceries. His room, which he always kept closed, had a thick towel pressed under the doorframe, like he was trying to block something in or out. One night, Jenna woke up around 2 a.m. to what sounded like scratching. Not loud, but persistent. It was coming from the hallway. She got up, slowly opened her bedroom door, but found nothing. The scratching stopped. She went back to bed, chalking it up to mice or maybe the old pipes. But the noise came again the next night. And the next. Determined to find out what it was, she waited up with her light off and her phone recording. At exactly 2:11 a.m., she heard it. Soft scratching, then creaking floorboards, and then the faint sound of a door opening down the hall. Lucas's door. Jenna held her breath. She heard slow footsteps approaching. Her doorknob began to rattle, just slightly, as if someone was testing it, checking if it was locked. Then silence. She stayed frozen in bed until morning. When she watched the video on her phone, it confirmed everything. Her door rattled gently, then a figure passed by, barely visible. Thin, wearing socks, moving silently. She knew it had to be Lucas. She tried confronting him the next day, but he just smiled and said, "You must be dreaming. I didn't even get home until 3. Jenna didn't believe him, but she didn't have proof. Not yet. So that night she checked the hallway. All quiet. She turned to head back, when she noticed something small and shiny under the hallway table. She bent down and found a pinhole camera. A tiny one, wedged between the wall and a decorative vase. Her stomach dropped. She rushed back to her room, locked the door, and spent the rest of the night packing her bags. Around 3 a.m. she was almost done. Her ride was coming at 7. She just needed to wait a few more hours. But then, she heard it again. The creaking, the soft steps. She turned off her light and sat quietly on the floor by her door with her phone in hand, already recording. The doorknob began to turn. Slowly. Then click. The door opened. She hadn't locked it. Lucas stepped in, holding something. She couldn't see clearly in the dark, but it looked long, like a curtain rod or a metal pipe. He froze when he saw her, and Jenna screamed. He ran. She slammed the door shut and locked it this time. Then she called 911. By the time police arrived, Lucas was gone. His room was empty. He'd taken most of his things, except for a few pieces of mail with his real name. What they found later shocked Jenna. Lucas, real name Anthony L., had been evicted from a different city just months before for stalking a female roommate. A restraining order had been issued. He'd disappeared since then. Jenna was lucky. She'd gotten out in time. But the nightmares stayed. For months, she slept with the lights on. Even now, years later, she checks every rental with intense suspicion. She learned that cheap doesn't always mean safe. And that sometimes, monsters don't hide under your bed. They rent the room down the hall. A cheap room cost her nearly everything. Starting over in a new city is tough. New job, new place, new everything. And when you're on a tight budget, every free item feels like a small victory. This story was shared by someone we'll call Nate. He had just landed a junior position at a design firm in Portland. The job was decent, but rent in the city was brutal. After moving into a small studio apartment, he was nearly broke. No couch, no table, just a mattress on the floor and a used coffee maker. Craigslist became his best friend. Most of the listings were either overpriced or in bad shape. But then he saw it. A free couch posted just an hour earlier. The photo showed a clean, modern-looking gray sofa. The description was short. Minimal wear. Must go today. Can deliver. Nate replied immediately. A woman responded in minutes. She and her husband were moving and needed the couch gone by that evening. She sounded polite, almost too eager. When Nate offered to come pick it up, she said, No, we'll bring it to you. It's easier for us. Weird, but convenient. They showed up just before sunset in an old white van. A thin man in his 40s was driving. The woman, also quiet and pale, barely made eye contact. They carried the couch in together, set it against the wall, and left almost immediately. No small talk, no interest in payment, no smiles. Just a quick enjoy. And they were gone. Something about the interaction left Nate unsettled. But still, he had a free couch. And it looked great in the apartment. That night, he watched a movie and fell asleep on it. That's when the nightmares started. In one dream, he was tied to the couch, unable to move, while someone whispered just out of sight. In another, he saw flickering images of a girl crying, of the same white van parked outside, of blood. Nate woke up drenched in sweat. He brushed it off. Stress. A new environment. Maybe the couch just had a weird smell or something. But then, the lights started flickering. First it was the floor lamp, on, off, on again. Then the overhead light buzzed constantly. He replaced the bulbs. Nothing changed. His phone charger started glitching. One night, his TV turned on by itself at 3:47 a.m. Then came the noises, scraping sounds under the floor, a tapping behind the wall, whispers, too faint to understand, but always coming from the couch area. By week 2, Nate couldn't sleep. He tried flipping the couch over, looking for maybe a bad wire or mold. That's when he noticed something strange. The back panel felt hollow. It didn't match the rest of the weight. The fabric on one side was a slightly different shade of gray, like it had been replaced or repaired. He took a knife and carefully cut it open. Inside was a narrow, hidden compartment. What he found made his blood run cold. A small plastic bag. Inside, strands of long brown hair, a cracked iPhone with a shattered screen, and a stack of old Polaroid photos. Dozens of them. Every photo was of a different girl. Most of them looked to be in their teens or early 20s. Some looked like selfies, others like surveillance shots, sitting in cafes, walking down streets, sleeping. Some of the photos had handwritten notes on the back. Names, dates. One simply said, "Too loud." The last photo was of a young woman sitting on this same couch. Her face was pale, her eyes vacant. She looked like she was crying. Nate's stomach turned. He put everything back in the bag and sat frozen for nearly an hour. He called the number from the Craigslist ad. Disconnected. He called again. Nothing. That night he didn't sleep. He just sat in his desk chair with every light on, door locked, phone in hand. Around 2:30 a.m., he heard something. A soft knock at his front door. Then silence. Then another knock a little louder. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He walked slowly to the peephole. No one. He sat back down. At 3:12 a.m., the doorknob turned. Not aggressively, just a slow twist. Testing. Then it stopped. Nate called the police. They came quickly, checked the building. No signs of forced entry. No one spotted in the hallway. They told him it was probably just someone trying the wrong door. Common in apartments. But Nate knew better. He'd seen one of the men in the photos. He was almost sure of it, the man who delivered the couch. Same eyes. Same vacant stare. He told the officers everything. Showed them the photos, the hair, the bag. The police took the evidence and began a formal investigation. Days later, they returned. Turns out, one of the girls in the photos was listed as a missing person, reported 3 months prior, just a few towns away. The couch became a key piece in a growing investigation into possible trafficking or worse. Nate never heard what happened to the couple. He moved out within the week. For months afterward, he kept waking up at 3 a.m., convinced someone was still watching him. He doesn't use Craigslist anymore, not even for small things, because now he knows some things are free for a reason. Losing your job is stressful. Bills don't stop coming just because your paycheck does. That's the place Elijah found himself in last year. He'd been laid off unexpectedly from a retail job. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and his savings were drying up. He wasn't picky, he just needed something. Anything. That's when he found it on Craigslist. $20/hour. Warehouse help needed. No experience required. Paid daily. Too good to be true? Maybe. But desperation clouds judgment. But Nate knew better. He'd seen one of the men in the photos. He was almost sure of it, the man who delivered the couch. Same eyes. Same vacant stare. He told the officers everything. Showed them the photos, the hair, the bag. The police took the evidence and began a formal investigation. Days later, they returned. Turns out, one of the girls in the photos was listed as a missing person, reported 3 months prior, just a few towns away. The couch became a key piece in a growing investigation into possible trafficking or worse. Nate never heard what happened to the couple. He moved out within the week. For months afterward, he kept waking up at 3 a.m., convinced someone was still watching him. He doesn't use Craigslist anymore, not even for small things, because now he knows some things are free for a reason. Losing your job is stressful. Bills don't stop coming just because your paycheck does. That's the place Elijah found himself in last year. He'd been laid off unexpectedly from a retail job. Rent was due in 2 weeks, and his savings were drying up. He wasn't picky, he just needed something. Anything. That's when he found it on Craigslist. $20/hour. Warehouse help needed. No experience required. Paid daily. Too good to be true? Maybe. But desperation clouds judgment. He replied instantly. A man named Darren got back to him just an hour later. His tone was casual. Friendly. Said they were short-staffed at a distribution site just outside town. He gave Elijah a time and place to meet for orientation. Bring an ID, he said. We'll take care of the rest. The location was odd. An old parking lot behind a closed-down diner on the edge of the industrial district. Still, Elijah showed up. He didn't want to lose this shot. A white van was already parked there. Darren stepped out. Mid-40s. Greasy hair. Aviator sunglasses, despite the overcast sky. You Elijah? He asked. Elijah nodded. We've got a confidentiality policy at this facility, Darren said, pulling out a black cloth. Gotta blindfold you until we're on site. Company rules. That should have been the red flag. But Elijah hesitated only a second before letting him tie the blindfold over his eyes and guide him into the van. The drive felt long. Maybe 30 or 40 minutes. No talking. Just the hum of the road and the occasional bump. When the van stopped, Darren led him out. The ground felt like gravel. He was guided inside somewhere. Based on the echo, maybe a warehouse or basement. The air was cold, damp. The blindfold came off. The room was small. Concrete walls. A flickering fluorescent light. One metal chair. A closed door. And no one else. Wait here, Darren said. The door closed behind him. Locked with a loud click. Elijah waited. And waited. Then whispers. Too soft to understand. Almost like a recording playing over a speaker. Then footsteps just outside the room. The light flickered again. Elijah called out. Hello? Is this part of the orientation? No response. Hours passed, at least it felt like hours. There was no window, no phone service, no clock. He banged on the door. Screamed. Nothing. Then he noticed something through a crack in the wall near the floor. Air movement. Faint light. He dropped to his knees and found a small panel behind a broken floor tile. He pulled at it with his keys until it snapped loose. Behind it, a tight crawl space. With no better option, he squeezed through. It led into a narrow maintenance tunnel. Pipes lined the walls, and he crawled until he reached a dead end. But just above him, he spotted a vent grate. He pushed it open and climbed up. He found himself in a small, filthy bathroom, just a toilet and a sink. The window was tiny, but it was his only way out. He broke it with a metal rod from the sink and squeezed through, cutting his arm on the way out. He landed hard on the grass outside. Looking around, he realized they weren't at any official warehouse. The building looked abandoned, overgrown, windows boarded up. It was out in the woods, far from any main road. No sign, no trucks, no cameras, just the van. But no Darren. Elijah ran until he found a dirt road, then followed it until he hit pavement and flagged down a passing car. At the hospital, he told the nurses everything. The police arrived within the hour. They searched the area. The building was empty, but inside, they found multiple rooms like the one Elijah had been in. All had locks on the outside. Some had mattresses, chains, cameras. Whoever Darren was, this wasn't his first time. Later that week, Elijah did what most of us would. He Googled, and what he found chilled him. Over the past 2 years, similar Craigslist job listings had led to disappearances across 3 different states. Men in their 20s, all unemployed, all desperate. Some had never been found. The police asked Elijah to look through a photo lineup. And there he was, Darren, real name Mason K. Already wanted in 2 states for kidnapping and illegal confinement. Thanks to Elijah's description and the location, Mason was finally caught a month later. Found trying to lure someone else with a fake offer. He's now facing federal charges. Elijah was lucky. He escaped. But the trauma didn't end there. He had trouble sleeping. Flinched when doors closed too loudly. He deleted every job app on his phone. Craigslist? Never again. Just the logo gave him chills. All this from a simple ad, a few lines of text, a too-good-to-be-true offer. Elijah says now that he ignored every red flag because he was scared of being broke, of failing, of having nothing. But what he didn't realize was how much more he could have lost. Because that easy warehouse job, it nearly cost him his life. 3 stories, 3 lives that could have ended very differently. What began as simple decisions, renting a room, picking up a couch, applying for a job, quickly spiraled into something far more disturbing. And the scariest part? These weren't haunted houses or abandoned asylums. These were everyday situations, found on a website we all know. Craigslist, like many online platforms, offers convenience, but it can also be a mask. One that hides the intentions of people who know exactly how to exploit trust, urgency, and desperation. That's why it's so important to be careful. Always meet in public places. Bring a friend when possible. Never go alone to remote locations. And above all, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Behind every too-good-to-be-true deal or friendly message could be a darker story waiting to unfold. And sometimes that split-second decision to click, to message, to meet can be the line between safety and horror. So the next time you scroll through Craigslist, just remember, some deals come with more than you bargained for. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more true horror stories posted every week. And if you've ever had a creepy Craigslist experience, share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear your story. Stay safe out there, and sleep with one eye open.